Welcome.
Hi.
Hello.
How's everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm not too bad. I'm quite excited, actually. This is really fun. So, for anybody watching, you might be thinking, you know, like, why are we here? And the backstory to this is that I'm the only one here without children. These are lovely mothers that I know, and I had to babysit my nephew for 5 days over Christmas, and I cannot even begin to tell you how much it wiped me out. It wiped me out, and I was like, how does anybody do this and still live a life? Like, I just couldn't comprehend it. And then I was talking to India, who we'll introduce in a second, and it just kind of sparked a light bulb in my head as to think like, do you know what? I want to have a chat with the mums that I know, and I feel like this needs to be more widely known. Like, mums need to get more recognition for the bloody work that they do, because it was so hard. So then I was like, let me reach out, let's try and put this together. And now here we are here. So I'm gonna introduce you guys. So we have the lovely Tamara.
Hello.
How many children do you have?
1.
What's her name and age?
Isla, and she's 14 months.
Nice. We've got the wonderful Shanice.
Hello.
Hello, how many children do you have?
I've got one little girl called Mabel, and she's 9 weeks today.
Wow, 9 weeks.
Yeah.
Danielle. Hi. Hello, how many children do you have?
I have 2. I have Noah and Leah. Noah's 13, Leah is 7.
Nice. And India, who is my lovely best friend. How many children do you have?
So I've got 2. I've got a 3-year-old called Ralph and a 6-year-old called Luna.
Wonderful. So when I kind of like talk about this, I wanted to kind of go in chronological order so that I didn't miss out on anything. But the whole aim is just basically talking about your experience, sharing your experience. And you might all have like similarities within each other or how different it was for you. But the whole point is just like to feel relatable to each other and also to other mums as well who might watch this, and they might be a new mum like yourself that is just thinking, I actually just want to hear what it's like from like normal people.
What it's really like.
Exactly, yeah. What it's really like.
I wouldn't say normal.
Exactly. So firstly, when it comes to like getting pregnant, was that easy for you guys, or was it difficult? Or go on, who?
But my first daughter, first month fine. My son took like about 16 to 18 months, and that's not a long time for some women. But
what was it like for you? Like, how did it happen?
I was obsessed. Like, I was obsessed with ovulating. I was like, the amount of negative pregnancy tests I did was just unreal.
Yeah,
really, I found that really hard. But again, some women, years they can't fall pregnant.
Yeah.
I can't even fathom what that must be like. But
did you ever think of like, oh God, is there something wrong with me? Or... Yeah,
I thought, how can it be so easy the first time and the second time not as? Well, I don't say not as easy, but you know, yeah, it was. I think that was one of my happiest moments when I saw that I was positive pregnancy. I remember thinking, thank God. Like, because you feel like you can't do it, and like I was like, like he's a blessing for sure. Because I was, thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God I have him. But yeah.
What about you guys? Was it kind of a first time thing, or?
Yeah, for us it was. I think, so we just got married. Yeah. And we were always like, right, we're going to have like a year of married life, you know, go on holiday. And we spoke about it, and he was like, you know what, let's just take like less precautions, but not actively try. But I feel like there's no middle ground. Like for me, I was like, I bought the ovulation sticks.
You were on it.
Yeah, I was on it. And then literally first month, I was like, oh, because I think I had it in my head, like, I'm getting a bit older and, you know, it takes women a little while. It might take us 6 months. First month, I was like, Josiah. And I literally took the test out of, like, banter because I really thought my period was coming. Yeah. So I found, like, an old one. I was like, oh, let me just do it. And then I saw the line. I was like, no, it's faulty. So I did, like, 2 more. And I was like, oh, my gosh.
We were pretty similar.
I was going to say, we know all too well.
Yeah,
some
wedding magic.
As in honeymoon?
No, wedding magic.
I swear, guys, Story time. I was at Shanice's wedding, right? It is like 5 minutes before the venue is closing. So Shanice is trying to get everybody out. And she's like, guys, can everyone just come on? You've got to leave now. I've got a baby to make.
Literally.
She spoke it into... I'll never forget that. It was incredible.
But, you know, like the build up to our wedding was amazing. It was really magical anyway. But me and Jordan have always aligned and wanted children. And obviously, as you get older as a female, obviously you do start to worry how long is it going to take, or if you're going to be lucky enough to obviously conceive. So our kind of action plan was, let's get to the wedding week and then we'll just stop taking precautions. Yeah. And magically, it was going to happen on our wedding day. So yeah, when we were trying to get people to leave the wedding, I was like, we need to move. And then, magically it did happen our wedding night. And I was so blessed really to have such a great experience. But I'm aware obviously it could take longer if we choose to have more children.
Mm-hmm.
My story is not magical. All of these, both of mine weren't planned.
Yeah.
Same dad, but relationship was kind of like on and off all of the time.
Yeah.
So with my first, I found out I was pregnant. It was quite a lot of toxicity at the time. We split, so I did the whole pregnancy like on my own. I was 22 when I fell pregnant with Noah. Mm-hmm. And then obviously once he was here, on and off with him. I have PCOS, so there's loads of different complications that kind of come with that. But because I had Noah, I didn't think there would be any issue. But I wasn't on any contraception or anything like that. And then Leah came nearly 5 years later. So to think that I was unprotected for 5 years shows how long my body took to
be fertile. Yeah.
So I basically had both of my children on their own. So it's not, I don't have the magical, happy story. My children are my world, but I don't have the magic. I just have the kids.
Yeah.
There's definitely magic there.
Yeah, absolutely. And before having children, what was kind of like your perception of having children and being pregnant, being a pregnant woman? Like before you had kids, what was like your vision of it?
I thought I'd glow.
Yeah.
I thought I'd glow like the films, but
that glow is an absolute lie. I've got the opposite of glow. I got acne, and I've never had acne in my life. Suddenly, my cheeks just everywhere, and I was like, "This isn't what they said."
Yeah, I was going to say, what other myths are there where it's like that you think it's what it's going to be like when you're pregnant?
This whole you're only sick for the first 3 months is a lie. I vomited until I gave birth with both of mine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it made me so unwell. I was like hospitalised. I don't like to do like scaremongering.
No.
But both
it's gotta be true.
Yeah, both of mine were just absolutely horrendous. Couldn't keep anything down. I didn't enjoy pregnancy at all. And once I gave birth, I was like, thank goodness for that. Yeah.
But that's the reality, do you know what I mean? Like you just said, like I wish I was glowing like the films. Like that is the image that is portrayed for like pregnant women and mums, that you've got to look amazing for a pregnancy, and that's just not the reality. Like
It's
you don't
not.
feel amazing.
I think it's like the fashion as well. Like I've always I'm not fashionable, but I like fashion. And I think like sometimes, like when because I was big, and I just remember being like, I can't even, like I just didn't feel like myself towards the end.
Can I be controversial?
Yeah.
I did something that I found being pregnant. Obviously, we did have a magical start to it, and I was just so excited to be pregnant and have Jordan's child. So I did start telling people quite early, and it was interesting. I was met with mixed kind of.
You should be telling
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I was very aware of obviously the chances of miscarriage, like after being around that quite a lot through friends. So I wanted to like celebrate the pregnancy every day. Like to me, that was really important, stay positive. I was obviously very respectful of other women and other experiences they could have had. But with my like nearest and dearest, I wanted to celebrate it because obviously I was aware that the pregnancy might not get to the end.
Yeah.
So for me, I just really tried to stay positive throughout the pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's maybe where my pregnancy glow, if I had one, came from, was just how my mindset around it.
Also, you had told everyone you was making a baby, so you kind of
It wasn't really a surprise.
Exactly. Were there any complications for any of you during your pregnancy?
So with my son, no, the birth's completely different, but with my daughter, my midwife did like all of these different tests and stuff, and there's something called Streptococcus B or something like that, which not many mums get tested for, but my midwife had just put my bloods through and it came back that I had this whatever they call it, and had a big red sticker then put on my book like Strep B mum, and I was like, oh my God. And I looked into it, and it's basically once the baby's born, you either have to have antibiotics into your system or they do, because then it can go on to complications and all these different things. So that was the only complication in the sense that I had this big warning.
What is it? What is that?
I should know more about it, but it's
like a virus
basically, yes,
kind of
it's
thing,
dormant in everyone, basically.
Right.
In all women, you have this virus dormant, and it's within your lady area.
Yeah.
So if you give birth naturally, the baby goes through, can pick up this virus, germs, whatever you want to call it. It can cause septicemia. It can cause the baby to stop breathing, everything very, very quickly. Everyone that I find out that's pregnant, I say, please ask your midwife to get tested.
Yeah.
NHS don't tend to do it. You can pay for it, but I think it's like however much. But it's worth it because they don't test for it. My midwife just put everything through. So if I didn't know, then
You would have been none the wiser.
I would have given birth, the baby would have gone home, and there's some real like scary things about it. So I was kind of glad my midwife had done that.
I didn't have complications. Like I am really grateful. Like I feel like everything was pretty straightforward. It was just a hard pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like you, I didn't enjoy being pregnant, and I felt really guilty about that because
Where? Why?
I think because obviously I was growing a life and I was so happy to be pregnant. This was like a dream for me. So the fact that I wasn't enjoying it just made me feel really guilty. I was just like, wow, this is harder than I thought. And like you, I was sick a lot. So obviously I had morning sickness for the first trimester. And then they're like, oh yeah, it goes and you glow and whatever. So literally, I think 12 weeks, I was like, yeah, this is it. Sickness is gonna go. And then I'm like, right, okay, it's been a while, it's still there. And then basically the sickness did go, but then I had this thing where you have like, I can't remember the actual term for it, but overproduction of saliva. So I had to carry a spit bottle with me. It is disgusting, yes. I had to carry a spit bottle with me everywhere I went. Like I'm talking to you now, I couldn't get through about 20 seconds of a conversation without having to spit into this bottle. And then because of that, I then started vomiting again. So it basically was like having morning sickness the whole time.
Yeah.
It was, again, I'm not trying to put anyone off or fearmonger, but some people don't talk about these,
But do you see, like,
these things.
Do you see what I mean? Like this is.
Heard of that in my life.
Yeah.
This is exactly why I wanted to like do this, because there's so, even like is it Strep B? Like never heard of it. Never heard of it. Okay, if I was to ask you each, what is one thing you would change about your pregnancy alone? What would you do differently, or what would you change?
Sleep more.
Oh yeah.
So I'm really struggling right now, 9 weeks in. I should have got more sleep.
No, I hear that. I feel like no amount of sleep probably would have prepared you.
No,
but I hear
yeah,
it.
just missed that.
What about you, Danielle?
I would have tried to have enjoyed the experience. I think because of the situation I was in with the children's dad, I was very miserable. I was sad. It was almost like, woe is me, and like everything was negative.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like if I'd switched my mindset, I'd have enjoyed it more, and do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would have
Been more
because I
present
knew
in
I was
it.
going to be by myself. So let's just get on with it rather than trying to like, you know, beg
hear
for
it.
somebody to be involved and be let down a lot. So I think mine was more the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
I think I wish I took more pictures. I think I was just quite self-conscious. Like my son, it was a nicer pregnancy. I felt like I felt more myself. But you know, you just think, oh, I don't want to take a picture. Like, I don't feel myself. But now I'm like,
You wish you had that.
yeah,
to look
because
back on.
it's such an amazing thing you can do. And I feel like I should have just like kind of embraced it and just been like, I'm pregnant. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to be, rather than like, oh, I'll be the one taking the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I do like bump pictures and stuff, and I kind of wish, like I never did any of the pregnancy photos either. You know, the professional ones.
Yeah.
Like, who am I worried? Like, you worry about yourself more than other people are worrying about you.
Yeah.
So probably a bit more. I should have been a bit more confident.
Yeah.
It's
Nice.
true,
If I have a
actually. I've got
third.
no pictures of me really pregnant.
Why do you think that is?
Because I was miserable, and it just wasn't something I wanted to like document and stuff. I think I've got one picture of me 2 weeks before I gave birth to Noah, and now I look at her and I just feel so sad.
Yeah.
You're in such a hard situation though. Like, I couldn't even imagine like doing
So
it on your
bad.
own.
Moving on to giving birth. So, who was natural? Who had a C-section? Explain. Home births, anything.
Mine were both natural. I didn't have any choice.
Yeah.
Noah was 10 days over, so I went in for, what's the word? Induction. Went in for induction. My sister was my birthing partner. I went from nothing to full established labour and birth in 34 minutes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Whoa.
With Noah.
Yeah,
thought mine was
so they didn't even get to do the second pessary. Then I told the woman, she was like, no, you just need some paracetamol. And I was like, I'm giving birth. And I was 9 centimetres dilated, so that was fast. With
my
Leah's, it was a bit
gosh.
more dramatic. I kind of got locked in my body because of the pressure of her coming. So established labour with Leah was 21 minutes. So my body was in complete trauma. I locked in. I was basically blacked out, but I could feel my body pushing.
Why do you think that is?
Just how fast it happens.
Yeah.
My mum's the same, my sister's the same, my nan's the same. Wow. And then Leah was born, but then all the alarms started to go off and there was trauma. I had to have transfusions and everything like. And then once all that was done, I kind of woke up and she was there like, hello. So it was very fast, very, very traumatic. I think if Leah's birth was what I had first, I wouldn't have had it anymore because I nearly died. Yeah.
That is
So I'm so depressing, I'm sorry.
No,
there
this is not depressing.
There is nothing magical about anything of mine. Until now, I have a lovely life.
Yeah.
Well, I was obviously being the positive possum that I am. I was like really trying to train myself for birth, so I was doing a lot of prep for it, a lot of hypnobirthing, and I just want to say though, like from my experience, like being part of the home midwifery team is absolutely amazing. So if anyone is pregnant or gets pregnant in the future, I'd highly recommend looking into it because you get to have your appointments at home, which was just really lovely. And actually, even if you don't give birth at home, they come into hospital with you. So you've got that continuity of care where you know your midwives who are around you. And I found that really reassuring.
That's a big thing.
Yeah.
I saw someone different every time. I was like, no one knows me then.
I knew my
Yeah.
midwives. I like 2 or 3 of them really well, and that made such a big difference. The contraction phase for me was just so intense and never ending, whereas the pushing part was like, let's go. I was like,
yeah, the feeling of pushing them out is crazy because it's so painful, but there's this relief when they come out where you're like, oh my gosh, thank you God. And yeah, I think it was so quick. That's why I'm like, I would choose labour over pregnancy because pregnancy was 9 months of what felt like close to hell.
Yeah.
Whereas the labour, it was difficult, but it was
over.
and there was no complications, thankfully.
that feeling when
they,
baby's
it's when you
out.
get past the shoulders, you're like, oh. Because the head's the hardest bit. It's that ring of fire, and then once the shoulders come out, the body's like, floop.
I thought I was dying. I was like, what? What's going on? I think when I had Luna, like it was amazing and I loved it, but I felt like my body was in shock of like what happened, like because like there was so much blood, like nothing like serious, but like the blood, and I kind of felt really vulnerable. I was like, there's so much happening to me, and I was just like, I know I was 22 with this baby, and like I'm in the pool, and there's like stuff everywhere, and it's the funny thing about labour. I think it's amazing. I find it. I agree with you. Like it's amazing. I loved it, but it was just I loved it in the sense of like what I felt so empowered with what I was doing, but I just feel like no one really told me what it was going to be like.
How do you guys feel like your treatment was in the hospital? That is one thing I wanted to cover.
It's so hard because obviously so grateful for obviously the NHS. Like we have it good. The prices in America and stuff is crazy. So it's like I never want to put them down, but I know that they are in a dire situation and it's therefore affecting people's care. And I think we did feel the effects of that. Everyone that helped me with the delivery, they were amazing. They were lovely. It was more the aftercare. I ended up being in hospital for 3 days because she just wouldn't latch properly. And we could talk about that in a bit, like breastfeeding and stuff. But yeah, she just wouldn't latch. And they didn't feel confident sending us home until they knew, obviously, she could latch. Then the same woman told us that Isla was tongue-tied. Then she wasn't tongue-tied. Then she was tongue-tied. Then she wasn't. And it was just like, so is she tongue-tied or not? Is this why she's not latching? And it was just really confusing at the time. I hate even complaining, but
sometimes
you have to fight your case.
What about you two? Like, how was your treatment?
Mainly, it's not anything specific. It's you're made to feel like an inconvenience a lot of the time. Like, don't come in, don't do this, don't do that. There's so much where you kind of feel like, especially throughout your pregnancy, they say come in any time if you're worried, if the movements get less, and then you go in and they're just like, oh, what are you doing here again? And it's like, you know, and then after you've had the baby, there's a lot of conflicting information given. So like the midwife would come and say one thing and then someone else would say something. Like these are medical professionals. I'm not talking about your friends and family and all their advice. You are made to feel like you're overreacting or you're an inconvenience. And I just feel like that's where a lot of things go very, very wrong, because women are silenced and like, I'll just go home, and do you know what I mean? So that's my only concern, is like, just listen. Do you know
It's
what I
like
mean?
more reactive than preventative.
Yeah, like telling me you're not in labour, here's a paracetamol. Yeah. Paracetamols don't even work for headaches for me, let alone a £9.6 baby. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
I hear it. And then we mentioned breastfeeding a little bit. Who did breastfeed and who didn't?
I tried to. I felt like that at the hospital. Like it was a lot of. I felt that was really pushy for me. Like with some of the midwives were like, do what you want to do. But with my first, I remember like being in pain, and like she had like a little syringe trying to get the colostrum, and I remember being like, she'd leave me with this syringe in my boob, and my husband, and we'd look at each other like, what am I doing? And I remember like them trying to harvest it, and I remember being really like visibly upset, and my husband was like, Inja, like let's just do the bottle, and the midwife like ripped his head off. It's her choice, and he was like, but I know my wife, like she's suffering, and you're just basically trying to. Sometimes I mean, I think it's amazing. Any woman who breastfeeds, like I take my hat off to you, but for me, I couldn't do it, and it kind of felt like shame of like, oh, you can't do it. You can do a bottle then. Whereas realistically, and the second time around, I took the bottles in for my son, and they asked me, I was like, I'm not doing breastfeeding, sorry, he's having bottles. They've been fine, like, you know. I just feel like sometimes I always found like maybe slightly older midwives, a bit more old school, like, but breast is best. And I don't disagree with that at all, but
I think a fed baby is best.
I think I couldn't do it. Like but also no one was showing me either. They're just like, here's your boob, here's a baby, and I'm like, and they're sore at this point as well. I'm like, I couldn't even put a t-shirt on.
So engorged.
Yeah, I just thought it was just that for me. I think that's what put me off. Like if I had another baby, maybe I'd be a bit. I don't know. I'm older now, but that whole thing. I kind of felt that. I think it's the guilt and the shame you feel.
Pressure.
Yeah, and I just felt like I just wanted to make sure my baby had a full tummy. That's all I cared about.
You breastfeed, don't you, Shanice?
Yeah, so obviously I'm only 9 weeks into this journey. You guys are a lot further than me. But I did 6 weeks just breastfeeding. I think it's magical. I didn't really have a plan before Mabel arrived, but it's absolutely exhausting. It's such hard work. I don't know how we can educate people more on it before their babies arrive.
I think that's the problem. I think that's the thing. It's like just breastfeed, and it's like there's so much more to it than just you need to do that for the mum especially.
There's so much to it, and it's actually quite lonely. Like it's quite lonely because you are the only person who can feed your child, and there's so much pressure. You're dealing with all these hormones. You're exhausted. It's a lot, but at the same time, it's so magical, this like amazing bond that you have with your newborn baby, and you're like essentially giving them everything they need. It's the most amazing thing. But we chose to then move into combi feeding, which is where we're at now, just because I felt like I needed a little bit of me back. So it means that my husband can help with the feeding, and that's working really, really well. We're kind of working towards weaning off the boob eventually, and there's just so much, and it is an absolute minefield, and I really don't think there's a lot of unbiased information out there to help mums.
Breastfeeding was really difficult for us. Like I said, she didn't latch properly, and then in the end, I just had to stop the breastfeeding because breastfeeding, I was using a nipple shield, she still wasn't latching properly. I went to see specialist after specialist after specialist.
Do you feel like now, hearing each other's stories, that it's like, don't put so much pressure on yourself and just do what's right for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I think most mums will say that to you as well. Like a lot of people have said that to me, just do what's best for you.
Yeah.
It's just really hard when you're so hormonal and tired to know what that is.
Yeah, 100%. I think that motherly instinct as well, not to disregard fathers or anything, but I do think it kicks in. It's very strange because you're giving this baby and like, good luck, like keep it alive. Like it's very weird, and you sit there and you just, at the first few nights, you don't sleep because you think, are you going to stop breathing in your sleep? And you're checking and you're doing, you know, all of that sort of stuff.
First time mum, it's really hard. Like, it really is hard. And no one gives you enough credit for how hard it actually is, because they look at you to know the answers, but you're like, mate, I can't even keep myself alive. I hope I'll keep a baby alive. It's really hard. So
how did, obviously this question is going to be different for you, but how did you find going from being with your partner, 2 of you, to adjusting to 3? And like for you, how did you adjust doing it on your own and having, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I had no choice, to be honest with you. It was kind of like, he was there on and off as and when he wanted to, but it was never any use, so he might as well have not been there. It just kicked in. It was like with Noah, it was very lonely, it was very like upsetting, and I kind of locked myself away because I felt like a disappointment as well. And then also there's all there's a lot of stereotypes of being a single mum and blah, blah, blah. And then I come from like a really strong Catholic family. So
What are those stereotypes that you got?
Just, there's a lot, with me, it's, even now that they're older, is that you're not going to give your child a good life. You've done something wrong. You must have done something wrong for you to be on your own. It's just, it's difficult. Like
sad, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
it is
sad.
sad.
It's awful, yeah.
My, obviously, is very different to you three. But yeah, it's like very lonely. It's difficult. I can't say what it would be like, if, he was there and stuff, because when he was, it wasn't good anyway. But yeah, you kind of just have to get on with it. What else can you do? Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Shanice, how do you go about like setting boundaries? Because you've got a 9-week-old baby, probably loads of visitors. What is that like?
Yeah, that's something that I wish I'd had more conversations and made a plan for with Jordan before Mabel arrived. Because I didn't realise, we both didn't realise how anxious we were going to be with people meeting her, because she is just this precious cargo to us now. So it's just crazy. You'd think people would have manners, if that's the right word. Maybe ask first before they touch or kiss. It's crazy how many people want to kiss your baby.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah, so I'd just say, like, any advice to people who haven't become parents yet is, the boundaries of visitors and people meeting your baby is a really big thing. You might not think it until your baby's there, but just kind of have an idea and have those conversations with friends and family, just so that you don't have any difficult situations. Yeah.
No, I hear that. And then 2 of you here have obviously got 2 kids. So India, how did you find going from like 1 to 2 and like building that like sibling bond?
I was really anxious about it. I remember being like quite heavily pregnant and thinking this is going to be really hard. I think I found going from 0 to 1 harder personally. I think it was more just the adjustment. Whereas with Ralph, I think I just thought I'm going to surrender to, if it's hard and I have a bad day with the kids, I think I surrendered to it more. And to be honest, like they've been amazing. Like Ralph at the minute, he's non-verbal and like possible ASD. So like he's a big 3-year-old boy, but he can't converse with his sister, but she's amazing with him. Like they get on so well. I mean, they have started to fight now. I mean, like it does sometimes, the wrestling gets a bit much, but yeah, there's definitely been moments I found hard having 2, but I just feel like I always like to get out. As long as I got out and broke the day up, and if I feel at home too much, as you know, like I have to go out and meet you. You can't come to my house. Like my house is getting wrecked. So like I feel like I like to get out and get a bit of fresh air, and they've always been quite good about going out. And I found, it's been hard times. Like it's hard having more than one child to think about, but I feel like I got into a routine quite quickly. Yeah. And if I had a bad day, I just thought, tomorrow's just going to be better. Like just try and just not always be. I think I was a lot more relaxed second time round, which I think I think I became a better mum once I had my son to both my children.
And in terms of school, obviously you 2 have got this to come. But like, I was going to ask you, how did you find the whole? Did you have like attachment issues? Did the kids have attachment issues of like you're spending all the time?
No.
Like,
So,
what was that like?
Well, both of them went to nursery from quite young because I had to get back to work. I was on my own, I had to pay for things. So both of them went to nursery from about 6 months old, and I didn't have any attachment. I was like, thank God, because I was so exhausted. Even with one, having to juggle, it was for me, even if I didn't work that day, I would go home and have a nap or wash or not me wash, I washed every day. But like do something in the house. So it was me, that was my me time. So I know I feel bad that I wasn't like, oh my poor baby, I miss you so much. I needed the time. I had no break otherwise. There was no respite from it. It was full on,
Do you 2 have any kind of like worries about nursery or when that comes? Has that been a thought?
It has been a thought, because I feel like the plan was, me and my husband both knew that we wanted me to be at home most of the time. Yeah. But I did want to go back to work maybe just 2 times a week. And it just hasn't been as simple as we thought with childcare. And we both have huge families, so it's like the village and the support have been there. But when it comes to actually babysitting, everyone's working. So there's not that many people. So then we're looking into nurseries and it's extortionate. We're on 1 income at the moment. So if I'm honest, that's been something that we're on the waiting list for like one that's quite affordable. But I'm just at home with Isla at the moment. And we've discussed homeschooling versus school. But I think we're leaning towards sending Isla to school at the moment. So but it's like it feels so far away, but you have to discuss it early because time flies.
Speaking of time flying, obviously you've got a 13-year-old who is in secondary school. Just tell us about the secondary school jump with a child. What's like the biggest differences that you saw, or did you find it challenging at all?
For me, it was my safety concerns that now he wants to take himself to school and be on buses and walking around. So for year 7, I drove him every morning. Like me and some of the mums did like a carpooling thing. So he got to the point where he was like, I want to get the bus. I'm like, no, it's too dangerous. Like for me, that was my fear mainly. He fit into secondary school amazingly. Then obviously he went off to go and film for TV and stuff. So he was gone for 3 months. So he literally moved out of the house. So that's a massive jump. But I knew he was safe. So I think my main concern is the world outside scares the life out of me. And I don't like that Noah's now able to go and be part of that. And I can track him on his phone, but I can't hide in the bushes. Do you know what I mean? As much as I want to. And also things like fighting his battles, like when he first started, there was a little bit of bullying and stuff, and he'd tell me, I'm like, right, tell me who it is. He's like, Mum, calm down. Because, you know, they're in secondary school now. You can't have your mum come flying at a child. And the school as well don't care about you anymore. Like with primary school, everything is, involved. Like they call you about everything. Secondary school, they do not care who you are. Your child has to be independent. I don't know if that's just my son's school or all secondary schools, but they kind of like, they're not concerned about you. The child now has to be independent, and it's very hard to let go of all of the control, basically.
How does that make you feel? Because Luna's 7 and has obviously got secondary school coming up.
Yeah, I mean, I do worry about secondary school, especially in our area as well. Like, there's not very many great ones, and I do worry about that. I wanted to ask you, actually, because you've got a son, do you have more worry for your son? Because I've got, obviously, having a son as well. Like, I don't know, I feel like more worry for my son's at secondary school, even though he's miles off. I don't know, with boys, I just feel like I'm more
worried for the world,
like
for
the safety
Noah.
and stuff.
I
get.
Also, because I was in the police for so many years, I've seen a really different side of the world. So I'm like, also have those insecurities, and then I've also got the part of like he's mixed race. So I'm like, you've got to deal with racism from people. So it's just so many things. I'm like, but I don't feel like I would be as scared for Leah. I don't know if it's because she's only 7. But I kind of feel like black boys are more like attacked by people, like they're brought into gangs, and I can't see Leah going to get in a gang. Plus she is as crazy as me, so she's sassy. I feel like she could handle herself, whereas Noah's a softie. So he kind of gets pulled into things. I'm the crazy one.
I love that. I'm curious to know from all of you, to be honest, how you felt about support in the early years, but also now. Because obviously there's so many more stuff like podcasts, TV shows, documentaries. Do you feel like they help you? Have they helped? Is it good?
So I feel like I might have a different opinion. I find social media harder. Like, I feel like I just think there's so much expectation. I'm a stay-at-home mum, so like for me, I feel like there's so much expectation, and like you see Christmas and stuff, and it's like all the baskets and all the money you've got to spend, and I think a lot of online, like I find some of the people who are most harsh to me are mums themselves, and I'm like, but you've done all this. Like I don't always get the best experience of. I think my people are great, but online and stuff, I just think it's really hard. Like, you're doomed in this world, like now, you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't. Like, you know, you're still a single mum, like working for your kids, and then it's like, why aren't you stay at home more? Why aren't you doing this? Like, I feel like it's so conflicting. Like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So for me, like, I like certain podcasts for like, but I feel like only recently it's become like cool to be a real mum. Before it was very aesthetic, and I think my life's not aesthetic, like it's chaotic as. Whereas now it's like only really recently I found that people are talking like what it's actually like to be
like de-influencing.
That's I feel like, but that's quite a new thing, which I'm loving that now. But before, like when my daughter was nearly 7, like it had to be very like this way, and I thought I couldn't relate to that because I thought that's just not the life that we live.
So it's good to listen, and for entertainment purposes, I don't necessarily think I would go and like listen to one influencer and what they do and blah, 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 because you don't know what's happening behind closed doors. I'm following what you do step for step, and then, why is it not working for me? Like, you know?
Different experience.
Yeah.
I think I think it depends. I've definitely found myself, I've always kind of struggled with this a bit, but you know, the whole comparison trap thing. And I think Instagram has been quite hard. But if I'm honest, it's less the influencers and more other people, as in real people that I know that have also had babies around the same time as me. I don't know why I find myself comparing them as a mum and me as a mum, like, oh, look, they snapped back, or, oh my gosh, they're in the gym already, or, and so there's like little things that I actually really enjoy getting from social media, but then there's other things that I find I really need to limit myself and stop
So you don't
comparing.
let the pressure
Yeah, but I find it is from like the real people I know, which is strange, and not the influencers. And I think it's because I actually know them, and I'm like, oh, she's doing that already, or...
It's hard not to compare with your kid, other people's kids as well, and like, it is impossible. You want to just, you've always question yourself. It's hard not to.
Yeah.
I felt like as a new mum, social media, not on the influencing kind of level, but I think I said this to you, Gigi, is like the amount of women on my social media who've reached out to me when I've shared the news of being pregnant or Mabel arriving into the world has been so empowering and so amazing. Like, just, you know, people that I did have a clear out on my social media, but even just people who have been like, you know, reaching out saying, you know, hope you're okay. If you need any advice or you want to talk about anything, like, just drop me a message. And that's people I haven't seen for years. And I think it's amazing, like, when women come together and help each other, it's just amazing. Like, yeah, I think that's a really positive side of social media, but real people. Yeah, and I'll definitely be doing the same, you know, when I see that news on social media.
Yeah. And so, okay, my last question to you all, what is one thing that you are excited about for the future in terms of motherhood?
I think just the kids growing. Like when I hear about you and your son, like you know, living a dream and doing acting stuff, I think it makes me think, oh God, what are my kids going to do? Like, what are they going to be? And like with my son at the minute, like he's not speaking and stuff, so I can't wait to see his journey of like how he's going to blossom. And you know, I say he's possible ASD, so like what that looks like for me. But just to go with it positively, because you know he is different to my daughter, and it doesn't matter. Like it's fine, and whatever that's going to look like for him. And you know, one day I might have another one. I don't know if I will, that's a bit crazy. But like, you know, like whatever, I'm just excited for it. Like I just want to embrace it because it is, I mean, it's hard, but it's the best. And I just can't wait to see what they grow into be, and hopefully I've done a good job.
Good. Danielle, what about you? What are you most excited about for the future?
Mine is like a toxic-free, like healthy life. Like my kids witnessed a lot of domestic abuse in my past relationship and stuff. So now that's kind of like all out, it's kind of, and then like my career's going well, Noah's got his like dreams and stuff. So mine is just, it sounds very cheesy and cliche, but just a drama-free, like happy life with the kids, just traveling and seeing how the kids progress and stuff. For me, that is just the best thing in the world, is just to be like happy. And yeah, that's
absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. Shanice?
That's a hard one. Obviously, I'm only 9 weeks in, but there's so much I'm looking forward to. But definitely just making memories, like as a family, and hopefully one day adding another member. Yeah.
Yeah, I think just seeing who Isla grows up to be. She's just the cutest little thing, and I just can't wait to see the person she's going to be. God willing, give her some siblings, and just see, I think, what our life looks like as a family. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming up with Josiah's career as well. So I think navigating that and just seeing what's in store for us is, exciting.
Thank you all for coming and having this conversation with me, because I totally understand that obviously I don't have children. I'm not a mum. Like, I don't know what it's like in your shoes. I literally have those 5 days to compare it to. But I just feel like it's so nice to talk about multiple different things and look at how everyone's experience is different. So yeah, I really appreciate you all. And one day, who knows, if I become a mother, I'll be reaching out to all of you. But yeah, thank you. It's really nice.
Thank you.